When you have ADHD, you tend to exist on a different frequency. Because we don't have as much dopamine, we tend to be experts on creating dopamine ourselves. The fact that we catastrophizing is a beautiful unconscious way that our brain creates stimulus. Once you get started on the things that you've been procrastinating on, the momentum takes over. Yeah. Starting is everything.
Hi friends, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to share today's episode with you because I have wanted for a very long time to do a deep dive into ADHD. It affects so many people around me, and it's been pretty life-changing for me to understand that I very likely have ADHD. I've done like all the self-assessments and haven't done the formal diagnosis yet, but it makes a lot of sense. This is not news for anybody who's ever seen my organizational skills, my time management, and my catastrophic thoughts, but I am definitely not alone in this. And there's also a lot of really interesting ways of thinking and superpowers that come with being ADHD that we talk about in this episode. So I'm really excited to dig in, and learning how my brain works has just given me a lot more self-compassion and self-understanding. And I'm really excited to implement some systems that will actually make my life easier now that I understand what I need better. And with us today to cover exactly this is Shanna Pearson. Shanna is the founder and director of the world's biggest one-on-one ADHD coaching company, working with thousands of adults with ADHD every year. She's the author of the bestselling book, Invisible ADHD, and she's appeared as an expert on NBC, Oprah Daily, Forbes, Dear Media, Canada AM, and many more. And this is a pretty vulnerable episode because we actually do some live coaching that really digs into some of the areas that I struggle with, that bring up shame and are just uncomfortable to admit in front of all of my listeners. So it's a really interesting one, and may my discomfort bring you some learnings and some feelings of relatability. Shanna, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited to talk to you about ADHD. It's literally one of our most requested episodes, so it is about damn time that we tackle this.
Good. It's good to be here.
I'd love to start with understanding a bit more about the science and like the brain biochemistry of ADHD. Can you shed a bit of light on how this impacts people's dopamine and how a neurodivergent brain is different?
I can specify that an ADHD brain is different because we have less, you just, in the simplest, most layman's term, because I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor, but in general, we have less dopamine available in our brain. And we don't know why yet, even though we know so much about so many things. We're living in, the end of 2025 where like AI is taking over. We still don't know that, whether we are, do we just have less dopamine? Does our brain produce less, or is there less available to our brain based on like reuptake and whatnot? So you just have to know that we have less. Period. Okay. It's not like, our brain is producing less. We don't know why. So because we don't have as much dopamine, we tend to be experts on creating dopamine ourselves. Right. So it just to sort of create a sense of, balance or homeostasis. We will do things in our life and with our behaviors that will, create more dopamine. Like people, we'll call it like a dopamine hit, but it's really what we do just to create a sense of balance.
That's so interesting. I also didn't know that people are born with it. So is there like a genetic component to it?
100%. So when a person has ADHD, they were born with ADHD. And usually there is a genetic component. And that means that, normally a very close family member will also have ADHD, whether it's, a parent or a grandparent or an uncle or aunt. You'll find the other person. Usually if you were diagnosed with ADHD, most people are like, oh, they'll know which relative like is also like them, the relative that they tend to, connect with on that level. But yeah, it is definitely genetic. That's already been, proven many times over.
Yeah, I feel like we can always find the person that is also ADHD. It's interesting how we gravitate towards each other. I've really noticed my friend groups, the more belonging I have found and the more like-minded friends I have found, the more I'm like, wait, we all have something in common. It's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing too. Thank goodness for that, right? Like it's kind of like we sniff it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
of it as when you have ADHD, you tend to exist on a different frequency. If you think about it, like it's like a wavelength, right? And
Yeah.
so we've spent most of our life feeling a little bit out of sync with everyone else. We're always like ahead, and it's like feeling impatient around other people, or just like, or it's about yourself. Like, why can't I just, fill in the blank? And then, we meet people who have the same type of brain wiring that we have, and it's just like it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool. And then you get to see all the gifts in it too, because I think we can be
Yeah.
really hard on ourselves. But when we see people that we care about and love and even admire, and we see like the different way that their brain works, we can start to be like, oh, wow, there's so many cool things about it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes it's just a willingness and desire to do everything.
Yeah.
It's like there's like no filters, there's no borders. It's like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Those types of people, or
Exactly.
it's just like an incredible. I find that in my circle, it's just a different type of honesty. It's like verbal. Just let it all out with a no filter. But there's not a lot that's being held back.
Yeah, a lot less bullshit, I find.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and what are the differences in how ADHD can show up? Because my understanding is that there's three different types, generally speaking. There's the inattentive, the hyperactive, impulsive, and then combined.
So that's the main understanding. There's some doctors that are like, well, there's 8 types, and then there,
Yeah.
like subcategories. But really, it's if you think of it, back in the day, there was ADD and ADHD. And ADHD was like the physical hyperactivity, where it's just like the people that just couldn't stop moving and tended to be boys, right?
Yeah.
And then the ADD was the more of just like attention deficit, where you're like in your mind. And that's pretty much the types. And then there's the combined. So now what used to be called ADD is now called ADHD-I, and the I stands for inattentive.
Can you explain what that looks like a bit more? Because I think most people growing up had the idea of the hyperactive version of ADHD, but maybe a bit less of the like inattentive. So how does that display?
The stereotype of ADHD is hyperactive.
Yeah.
And it's not at all the case when it comes to
Yeah.
almost all women. And so if you think of it like, an emotional or mental hyperactivity, where you're non-stop thinking and ruminating and untangling and retangling and second guessing and just feeling like thinking of every possible worst case scenario, and then rethinking all of those again and again, or just daydreaming, in a world of really engaging scenarios that your brain sort of latches onto. It is non-stop. And everybody has a brain that's constantly thinking. But for women with ADHD, we're in the most high stimulus, constant thinking mode, which is why we tend to catastrophize, why we tend to, just worry about everything and just think of, any possible scenario and second guess all of our decisions. So you think about it like high stimulus thinking nonstop. That's the invisible hyperactivity. You can be sitting completely still.
Yeah.
And just doing this. And usually we're like frozen or paralyzed, like freaking out in our mind, not moving at all. And so we're not disruptive. We don't bother people with this.
Yeah.
And so
it's very internal. It's
totally internal. So like we go into the radar all the time because we're not bothering anyone. There's no reason to be called out.
Yeah. It's really interesting how there's this like huge underdiagnosis of women who are hitting adulthood and being like, hang on, like something's going on here. And it makes so much sense when I haven't done the formal diagnosis process, but I've done a lot of the self-assessments because it was made very clear to me by a lot of people who know me well that they're like, hey, this might be a thing for you. And it was really helpful actually, because I'd been like mad at myself. I'd been like, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like, why am I always late? Why am I so disorganized? Why do I get so overwhelmed? All these things. I was like blaming them on myself as these character flaws that I should be able to do better. So it's been a very compassionate thing to be able to like understand, how an ADHD brain works a bit differently. But when I told a few people in my life, because I'm high functioning. I've always done really well at school, really well at work. I'm not physically hyperactive. They're like, there's no way that you have ADHD, because it makes it so clear why women have been overlooked in this regard, because it's such an internal process, it seems, for a lot of women.
Yeah, completely. And that's so interesting that what you just shared, because I feel like, honestly, that's the experience for probably 80% of our female clients. Almost over-functioning people, where they're just like amazing at everything and they try so hard, and nobody knows that they actually, and you probably do too, that they work 5 times harder than everyone else to get the same kind of result. It's stressful, and you can't let yourself fail. And you just can't, because then it just means that everyone else was always right about you, and why you're possibly different than a lot of other people. But what you just shared is so common. And honestly, like, you're saying that your friends are saying things like this, but doctors say that. Doctors will look at a woman who's like, well, how are your grades? Oh, well, I'm getting straight A's. Oh, then you definitely don't have ADHD.
Yeah.
So it's awful when a doctor is telling you that, because obviously you're going to listen to your doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
So then what else is wrong with me? Like, okay.
Exactly. And it sounds like there's also a lot of misdiagnosis of ADHD in terms of thinking that it might be anxiety or depression. I'd love to hear a bit more about how interplays and maybe like mimics other health conditions, or if you're more likely to have mental health conditions if you have ADHD, or if there's just so much symptom overlap. How does it all work?
You have ADHD. You haven't been officially diagnosed, but you did the screenings. Is that what you said?
Did the screenings, and it was a yes. It was high on the scale. Yeah.
So you can be our pretend person to, like,
put me in.
You're not exactly sure what's going on. This is like a typical woman who has ADHD. I try so hard. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I have, my work, my kids, my partner, my whatever, my friends, like a million different like boxes in our life. And I'm always late. I'm always like running behind. I'm constantly thinking like ahead of everything. And yet I'm still behind, why is it that everyone else seems to have like reached this level of adulting and I haven't? Like, I'm still single and I still don't know what I want, and I don't know what I want to do when I'm older. Like, oh my gosh, it took me I feel like forever to finally figure out what my thing was. And so you tell your doctor about all of these things, and they give you a screening. And I show this like everywhere. Like, I've been on like TV shows like showing these screening tools. Do you see this? This is the GAD-7.
Okay. And GAD-7, that's generalized anxiety disorder.
Generalized anxiety disorder. Yeah. And this is what your doctor gives you as a screening for anxiety. Okay. Tell me if any of these sound familiar. Like, for a person who has ADHD, you're feeling nervous. It's hard for you to control your worrying. How about, trouble relaxing?
Yeah.
100%. Unable to sit still, being, easily annoyed, feeling afraid as if something terrible might happen. The fact that we catastrophize all the time, because that's a stimulus. Like, catastrophizing is a beautiful unconscious way that our brain creates stimulus.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it.
Is that why there's like all or nothing thinking a lot with ADHD as well?
100%, because it's high stimulus. It's like, there's nothing, if you're just thinking like everything's fine, that's not so stimulating as like, holy crap, the world is about to end. Like, our brain likes that. Our brain needs it, even though it's not good for us. It's not good for our soul. It's not good for our life, but our brain gravitates towards that. So we are professional catastrophizers, and we don't want to be, but we are. And so this is the screening for anxiety. But every single woman with ADHD, everyone is going to answer at least in the middle or to the very much do so side of these questions. And so you will be diagnosed with some level of anxiety, whether it's severe anxiety or moderate anxiety. You're going to be screened for that. And so the other thing is that these are screening tools, but as you probably know, a lot of doctors, they're not diagnostic tools. And they're meant to tell people, maybe you need to look into this. Maybe you need to get a more thorough diagnosis. But the fact is, in our world of what we like to say, or not like to, but what we call lazy medicine, a lot of medical professionals use these screening tools and then just write a prescription based on the screening tools. So now you have a woman who has ADHD, and you've had it your whole life, and now you're being given anti-anxiety medication. So you've been misdiagnosed, you're being mismedicated, and your ADHD is not going to be feeling a lot better, although your, anxiety type, symptoms might be, but you're still going to, now it's going to be like 3 years later, I'm still not, doing what I want to be doing. I'm having a really hard time following through on things. I still always procrastinate. I'm constantly overwhelmed. All of these things that are not necessarily anxiety related.
Yeah.
And you don't know
the
why.
behaviors are still there. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know why, but you're doing everything your doctor said you should do. So that's a problem. And the same thing with depression. A lot of our female clients, including myself, by the way, were misdiagnosed with depression before being diagnosed with ADHD. And so that's also a problem, because now you're going to be on antidepressants, and for some people that actually makes them feel depressed, even if they're not depressed initially. So it's just another thing. And I can show you, if you want, I can show you the questionnaire for depression, or you can look it up. But the PHQ-9 is the initial depression screening, and it's really it's very similar to the anxiety, where we will basically be answering, almost all the time or every single day to most of these. 8 out of the 9, a person with ADHD is going to be answering, feeling, not having as much energy for things I don't enjoy, feeling bad about myself, trouble concentrating on things. Like, these are all ADHD symptoms. So that's a problem.
For people listening, if they're like, I've been feeling a lot of these things, I've been thinking maybe it's anxiety or depression, I don't know, is the next step for them when they go to the doctor to be screened for all of those things, but to also advocate for themselves in terms of looking into ADHD?
You have to. You have to look into ADHD, because there's such a humongous overlap. If you suspect that you have anxiety or depression, also get screened for ADHD, and make sure it's by a person who understands how ADHD presents in women. It's not just about executive functioning. It's not just about being late or, I'm disorganized. For women, I think one of the biggest telltale signs that you should look for, and you should ask yourself if this has been your experience for most of your life. For women, it's really this incredibly huge sense of overwhelm, which is neither anxiety or depression, but it is very much so ADHD. Like, if your life experience is basically everything all at once right now, which is how I describe overwhelm, because it's like everything all at once right now, yesterday and tomorrow. If that is your general experience, and that's been your experience since you can remember, since you were in like grade school, please go and get a real assessment or a diagnosis with a professional who really understands ADHD in women.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to this and be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been on anti-anxiety medication or antidepressants and it's not doing what you wanted it to do, then, likely
That's a sign. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Also, there's, a lot of times people have both as comorbid conditions, where you have ADHD and anxiety and depression. And so now you're only being treated for one, not the other. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's actually great news. It really is, because if your medication is not working for you, or if whatever, management strategies you've been using for anxiety or depression haven't been working for you that well, and it's because you also have ADHD, then honestly, you're in luck, because ADHD is very manageable. And so, as long as you finally find out that you have ADHD, you can manage it.
We were talking before about how like so many women are, high functioning, doing so well at work, doing all of the things. They're showing up in a way that doesn't necessarily reveal that they have ADHD, or the symptoms are really hidden. So I know that's referred to as masking, and it's pretty exhausting spending a lot of your life masking if you haven't had a diagnosis, if you don't really know what's going on, or if you're just not really being believed. And in order to exist and thrive in society, there kind of is some masking that happens. Do you know what the impact of this is, or how do we kind of start to unmask, if that's something that we've been doing?
I think the impact is pure 100% total exhaustion. It's a feeling of I'm not just like I'm tired after a day's work, but I'm completely spent. if you've been masking for a long time, that's the experience. That's how it feels. And it's like, you just can't, it's also why people get misdiagnosed with depression, because you just feel like you cannot go on. You cannot keep doing this, and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Of course there's a way to fix this. If you've been masking and trying so hard to be, somebody who you're not, this sounds really dumb, and it's like a replica of a Bob Newhart video from like the 1970s or something, where it's like really funny, where he's pretending to be a psychiatrist, and he's like, stop it, just stop it. And she's like, but I feel like I'm dying in a box and I'm going to suffocate. He's like, well, stop it. That'll be $10, please. But it's so funny. But if you have been masking, you need to know that that's what you've been doing, and that's why you're so flippin' tired. Okay, so what do you need to do to stop doing that? Find other strategies so that you're not masking. If it's like you're trying so hard to be on time when you always are late, set up a system where you're not. And like, I can say this really easily because I actually do this every single day with thousands and thousands of clients, but it's not easy to set up a system. But it is easy. It's not, but it is easy to follow it once you've set it up.
Right.
And that's what's the most important thing to know, because masking for your entire life is not doable. It's not doable, but setting up some kind of system where you can actually get up, at a time of day where you're not like scrambling for the rest of the entire day, that is doable, and it takes effort, and it is not easy, no matter what anyone wants to tell you on TikTok, and it is possible. And so when you're committed to that and you do it and you follow it, and then it eventually becomes part of your way of being, your entire world will change.
Yeah, the setting up of the systems is really hard, but that's why then it's important to have the help and the support in doing those things, because it's like,
right.
For me, organization and systems, it's like a foreign language. Like I just can't seem to implement any. It's so hard. And so I'm just living in a constant state of chaos because I'm not able to set up structure for myself. And I think that some of it might ladder up into this like need for stimulus that presents in people with ADHD. Yeah. And literally like on my tombstone, I think my friends would put like she thrived in chaos, or she always lived in chaos. And like the urgency, the last minute nature of everything, and just like always needing novelty and like an aversion to everything being the same and overly routine. So I feel like this is a bit of a cycle that I'm trapped in, that I'm trying to break. And I would love to know if you have any advice for how we can feed this need for stimulus in a healthier way, and this need for dopamine in a healthier way.
Oh, for sure. Well, when you say you're trying to break it, why are you trying to break it?
Well, because I'm sure I'm adding so much like stress and chaos and anxiety by like needing to procrastinate to the last minute so that there's urgency, and by like, kind of creating these scenarios where I'm like kind of constantly in chaos.
So you're constantly in chaos, but like let's pick one, because like procrastination, in my opinion, is not really about last minute stimulus. It's about overwhelm.
Oh, interesting.
Usually, and it's not always, but usually we procrastinate because we just don't have any idea of how to start. And the starting is just too like, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, or I could do that, or I could just go watch TV,
Yeah.
Like, or I could just go shopping for this thing that I really need, and I just remembered I wanted, right? Yeah. So usually that's why we procrastinate. The disorganization, chaos, the external chaos. Why would you want to change that?
I mean, I think because it's just keeping me in a constant state of stress and anxiety. Like when I can't find anything, when I'm always late, like when I think the way that I'm just naturally defaulting to creates constant stress. Like I don't actually enjoy it, but I don't know a way out.
Okay. Have you ever gone into this? Because if we were coaching right now and we had a whole hour just for me to like drill you, because I will.
Yeah.
I mean, I want you to, number one, you need to write down, I don't enjoy it. It causes stress. But then I need to know, what does the stress do in your life, and who else does it impact?
Oh, I mean, I definitely think it has an impact. Like I know it bothers people that I'm always late for things. And I know that I have constant anxiety when I have to be somewhere, because I'm like, I can't seem to figure out how to get anywhere on time. And so then I'm going to have so much anxiety. I'm going to show up with anxiety. I'm going to spend the first few minutes being anxious that everyone's mad at me because I'm late and that I've let everyone down, or that anyone's going to feel like I've disrespected their time. And then the spiral.
Right. So at some point you need to write down all of the steps in the spiral, because there's a lot there. There's how you feel about yourself. Yeah. This is just what I caught like in the last couple minutes or seconds. How you feel about yourself. You say stress, anxiety, showing up for not showing up for other people who I assume are people you care about. Right. Or people who you're trying to, if it's like a work thing, or, people that you're trying to like be the best you can be for. Yeah. Right. And that's just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you think about what type of impact that has on your life, I would have you create a very big reason for why you would want to change this one area of just external chaos. Like we're talking about organization. So we go one thing at a time. I'm not saying we need to change your entire life right now. Pick this one area. Yeah. Why would you want to be more organized?
I think it would free up some of my time to focus on things that I actually want to be doing. I think it would reduce stress and anxiety.
Why else?
It would reduce shame. I think I definitely carry shame around being just scattered. I've always been super scattered. And it's like when you see everyone else operating in one way and you're not operating in that way, there's like a shame that comes up.
So how does that show up in your life on a day-to-day basis? Do you think that affects you?
Yeah, I think there's avoidance that shows up. Like I literally have a rule, like don't ever just drop in on me. Like don't drop by, because I'll be too ashamed of how messy my house will be, or I'll be, I'm sure there's other ways it shows up, but that's like a really clear one where I actually would love people to just drop in on me. But it's being trumped by the feeling of I can't let people see what a shit show I have going on.
So how does that, so that actually affects your life and your friendships and your relationships?
Yeah.
So once we go like a lot deeper, and I'm not going to do it right now because we don't have an entire hour, but you have this is not just something you think you should do, because there's a difference between those things that, well, I should be a little bit neater. I should organize this or that. Like that's different than what you just described. Mm. This is something you have to do unless you feel like spending the next, 50 years living. Because obviously if we keep doing the exact same thing again and again, it's not there's no proof that it ever makes anything better. So then, we would put some external structures in place that are super, super, super tiny and doable for you. Yeah. Whether it's just like, even if it's just like finding your keys super easily so that you're never late for people when you need to run out the door.
Yeah.
Like the very first thing, and like creating that home for your key, and creating, like I talk about all of this in my book, and I give like very clear step by step, here's what you need to do and here's how to do it. And here's, some rules that you can create for yourself. But the point is what everyone should understand is that you shouldn't ever create systems that are big or difficult, because we won't do them.
Yeah, they're overwhelming.
It's overwhelming and it's not winnable. And I'm a huge believer that people who have ADHD need to do things in the tiniest, most minuscule steps possible, and then keep building on those steps. And by doing things this way, it takes very little time to actually take those big steps. Tiny, 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 tiny. And then it's like, God, and then you're constantly winning. And before you know it, it's been like 1 month or it's been 2 months and your entire world is like in a much better place. Whereas if you just try to create this whole system for like organization of your clothes and your like when to do laundry and your keys and your phone and your chargers, and forget about it.
Yeah. Which is exactly what I would do, because I'd be like, I've had enough of my shit. I'm blowing this up and I'm going to start everything. And then it's too much and then you can't sustain it. So it makes so much sense.
So just pick one, Jillian. Yeah. Just pick one thing. And like maybe that's like making sure you get out the door on time, like making sure you never are looking for your keys, or making sure, you pick out what you're going to wear the next day, the night beforehand, because you tend to get stuck in that overthinking a lot of women do that, where it takes them like an hour to get dressed instead of 10 minutes, right? So one little tiny thing, and you just do that, and you do that for a week, and then the next week you can do one other tiny little thing, right? And so like put a key ring next to your door and hang your keys there. That's it.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. Like I'm just saying whatever, the simplest things. But the trick is if you have a big enough reason, which you do, and you're able to create the tiniest changes, that are like fail proof, like things that you will 100% be able to do, then literally in 1 month, you're going to have that part of your life in a much, much, much better place.
That's so helpful. Yeah. The small steps. And I can imagine like if you set out to make that small change and you like accomplish it, then that's like firing the reward system because you did it.
That's what it is. It's like that's what I call positive stimulus. So before you asked me, our brain has all of these, genius ways of creating these negative, where it's external chaos or catastrophizing or daydreaming and never being present with people who you're sitting right in front of, right? And just like always somewhere else. And that's what I call negative stimulus, because the negativity it's because it takes us further away from what we really want.
Right.
And positive stimulus are the stimulus that brings us closer to what we really want. Okay. So a positive stimulus would be a win. Yeah. So you've set a goal. I'm never going to lose my keys again. I'm always going to know exactly where they are, or I'm not going to ever spend more than, 40 minutes getting ready in the morning, when sometimes I take 2 hours and I don't even realize it. Whatever it is, the positive stimulus is going to be the win when you can actually do it, do something differently for a week straight that gets you towards your goal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I want to dive also into emotional regulation for ADHD, because this is such a interesting one that, like, to your earlier point, I don't think it's not the stereotypical thing we think of with ADHD. And yet this is what so many people that I love and care about who have been talking to me about their ADHD issues, they're like, oh my God, my emotional regulation, it doesn't exist. Like everything is overwhelming. Everything is huge. My reactions are huge. It's kind of all or nothing thinking, all of these things that show up. I'm interested in learning a bit more about how we can manage these things. And I also wanted to talk about the trouble that crops up in ADHD with compartmentalization, because this to me makes so much sense about how it's hard to compartmentalize in terms of the way we think and the way that we feel and emotional regulation.
So compartmentalization is the everything all at once right now.
Yeah.
Like we have a brain that can't separate, which is why we're always thinking about everything all at the same time. And then that leads to our inability to manage our moods, because how on earth are you supposed to manage anything when you've got like 50,000 billion things going on in your head all at the same time, and a lot of them are upsetting. So you're just going to explode, right?
Exactly.
But the thing is, for compartmentalization, it goes back to what we were just talking about. You have to be very like on purpose. You have to externalize a lot of things, because you have a brain that's not able to compartmentalize. You need to write a lot of things down.
Okay.
Otherwise everything gets lost, within a minute. This is so important. What was that?
It's gone.
Right?
It's gone.
Gone. Externalizing, and then doing, like I was talking about with your our mock chaos, organization strategies. You do one thing at a time. And that is how to manage a brain that is not able to compartmentalize.
Right.
And so it goes completely against the regular, everyday, neurotypical, like multitask. I can do this and this and this and this, and I can do it all at the same time. And that's actually kind of fun. So we sort of like doing it that way, but it doesn't work. So you can ask, like, do I want to do what's, that's interesting, or do I want to do what's actually going to work to get me what I really want, which is maybe even more interesting. So if you can, like, the original name of my coaching company in Canada, which is, when I first started this, was One Focus, Total Success Incorporated, because one focus at a time is what works. And it's actually what gets us results so much faster than trying to do, 30 things all at the same time. that's what you need to do. So it's like, the one, the key ring, right? Or the, or setting your clothes out the night before, or that one thing. And then you've got that part, managed this much, only a little tiny bit. And then like, what's the next thing you're going to do to manage it a little bit more? And then the next thing, one thing at a time.
But that's hard to do with our emotions and our thoughts. Like, how does that apply? Like, how do we actually implement that with kind of emotional regulation? Because if you're like kind of getting flooded with like a bunch of different, like everything's leaking into each other. You've thought about this thing that was upsetting and now it's brought up all these 3 other things that triggered a similar emotion. So is it just being disciplined with what we focus on, or how do we actually like do that singular focus when it comes to emotion?
Well, you don't do a singular focus when it comes to emotion, because you can't focus on one emotion at a time. Mm-hmm. If you're managing your moods, and I know it just happens to be in my book that mood management 101 is the longest chapter in my entire book, because there's so many things that we can do. And I think at the end of the day, one of the simplest things I would tell people, and so I'll tell you, are the tools, and all of these tools are in my book, but it all comes down to getting out of your head. You can manage your mood by getting as out of your head as you possibly can, because your head is going to be overflowing nonstop all the time. I'm going to give you an example. Okay. I came up with this when I was in elementary school, and I didn't know why I was doing this. It just worked. So, and again, it's like one of the things that's in my book, but just to give you an example of what it means to get out of your head. So you're super, super upset about something. Somebody spoke to you the wrong way. So-and-so didn't call you for 3 days. You got laid off from a job. Your friends did something without you. Whatever it is, you're pissed. You're pissed. Yeah. And you can't get it out of your head, right? Because it's like, and now it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like dripping into everything, and it's like awful. So in order to get out of that, one of the things that I love doing with our clients, and that I always have done for myself, is I call it non-dominant handwriting. So force yourself, so you get out of that emotion, right? Because you're going to try to switch the emotions around. Come up with one reason or solution that kind of makes sense for what happened. Okay, your friends did something without you and you're super pissed. Like, how dare they? What's the one reason or possibility for why they did that? And usually we'll be able to come up with one. Something that we did, something that we said, something that maybe we hadn't done initially, or something. There's just some reason, or so-and-so is like all really overwhelmed herself and she could only invite 3 people for whatever it is. You come up with that one idea and you write it out with your non-dominant hand. So now you're thinking, instead of thinking about like all of the anger and the upset and the blame and the, self-deprecating thoughts that you're like, I suck, nobody likes me, etc. Now you're just thinking about how to write that stupid letter A, and like, where do I put that little line in the middle? And and you're
pulls all your focus. Yeah.
You're focusing on something else, but you're focusing on a solution or a reason, or something that actually, when you're concentrating on it, maybe you forgot that if it was something that like a friend did to you, maybe you forgot about what your friend's situation was. You write it down 3 times with your non-dominant hand.
Right.
And instantly, like not instantly, because it takes a long time. It takes like 5 minutes to do this, but 5 minutes is not a big deal, rather than stewing in something for an entire day or month.
Oh my God.
Then, you're in a different state. You're in a different state.
And it requires your full presence, which I think is when we have these like emotional spirals. Like, you're not present in anything you're doing. You're in like, you're everywhere, but you're on
the exterior.
Yeah.
Right. So this kind of like, whoosh, it just like forces you to like go right in it and like concentrate on the smallest, most, minuscule things, and you're there. And it's like a bit of mindfulness as well. But because you're thinking about writing, and you're thinking about the solution or the reason or whatever you created in your, whatever that was, it's also going to make you feel a heck of a lot better in terms of mood management, right? I do this with, I have kids, and they do a lot of things that piss me off. And So does my husband. So like, I do this often. It's like, because there's always a reason for what they do. Even in children, there's a reason for what they do, and for why they said that, or for what they did, or there's always a reason. So if I just focus on their reason and I focus very intently, I'm a lot less angry and upset, and I can be a lot more grounded with how I react to them or respond, really.
That makes a lot of sense. And I guess that also helps remove it from being about you, because I think there's a lot of like that sensitivity that can come with ADHD of like everything feels really personal and really sensitive and really difficult. And so when you're a bit more focused on like the why and hopefully maybe assuming positive intent in the other person, then that
or
helps
just
you,
not negative.
Just exactly. Going in with a bit more neutrality, and then it also takes it away from, oh my God, see, everyone hates me. I'm not loved. My kids don't care about me, whatever it is. And it kind of removes that from the equation.
100%. That's exactly what it does. It makes everything neutral. Everybody has a reason for almost everyone has a reason for why they do what they do. And it forces us to focus on that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Rather than ourselves and why everyone hates me and why I suck and all of the, the constant habitual statements we've been telling ourselves for our entire life. I think if I distilled all of it down, it would be just like all of these ways are how to get away from your thoughts, like how to get out of your head. Like, I had this whole thing about physical state changes. When you're singing a song out loud, it's very difficult to be upset.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. Almost. Yeah. So like, pick a song that you love and just stand up and sing it. Right. Like that's a physical state change. A physical state change could be exercising, getting out of your head by getting into your body. It could be, one of our clients brought this to me, and then I started doing it with all of our clients, and it's kind of horrible, but fun. It's just like, you're like sucking on a breath mint, and then afterwards you drink an ice cold glass of water. And it's like an instant switch off. It's just like, it gets you out of that headspace, even just for a minute, so that you can kind of gather yourself again.
Right. Yeah. Those like sensation kind of triggers that like bring you back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's really helpful. I'm curious if like the inability to compartmentalize or the difficulty with compartmentalization might be why a lot of people with ADHD struggle in like traditionally corporate environments, because I see this amongst my entire ADHD friend group of like doing what you're told and not questioning the systems and not being like, well, wait, maybe there's a different way or a better way, or seeing injustice and being quiet about it. Just there's an inability to just like go with it. If you see something clearly and you're like, this doesn't make sense, I can't just compartmentalize it and put it away and pretend it's not happening. And I definitely felt that when I was working in a corporate environment. I was like, I fucking can't do this. So maybe that's why because it is why. A funny thing. Yeah.
It is why, because you can't take it and put it in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people can. And it's also why we have a hard time. We also have a harder time in relationships for the exact same reason, because issues become issues, and it's like little things become huge and huge things become like unmanageable. So it's the same kind of thing where it's really hard just to follow in a straight line and not question and put all of my questions away, and I can deal with my questions later. If you have ADHD, that's almost impossible to do, because those questions are like, again, like I described it, like it's like a liquid in a container seeping into everything. It's like overflowing all rationale, and you're sort of drowning in it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, there's no, I'll put this to the back of my mind till later. It's like, no, there's only front of mind. Like
there's only here now. Yeah.
No,
so that's really why. It's like, if it's not, which is also, I think, one of the gifts.
I agree.
Even though it's a pain in the ass, right? But it's impossible for us to get stuck in something we don't like.
There's no sweeping it under the rug. It is pretty all consuming if something's not working. So
yeah, you're going to talk about it. You're going to try to deal with it somehow, or you're going to change it.
Yeah. And that's why I also like, although there's a lot of really frustrating symptoms with ADHD, I also see that like that's usually who the change makers are, and the people advocating for things, and the people like breaking out of the mold, which we need. So
yeah, no, I think it's amazing. I think there's a lot of great leadership components to ADHD. If only we can have someone help us with the the administrative stuff.
The day-to-day existing.
Yeah. No, but it really is. There's a lot of passion. That is for sure. There's so much, like, I think that's why I love what I do so much, because like all of our clients, no matter who they are, no matter how loud or quiet or, up there they are in society or like way down here and just trying to figure it out, everybody seems very passionate and it's gorgeous. It's really, it's like
it
very,
is beautiful.
There's so much life and just like energy, and thank goodness for that. Like that's what the world needs.
We do. So, that is exactly what we need. We don't need more complacency. That's for sure. No. So there's great parts of it all.
Which is why we need to manage it, because like when you see complacency, it's like when it goes unmanaged and you feel like crap and you blame everything on yourself and you don't even know that it's ADHD. That's when it becomes sad and depressing, and we become like very complacent, where it's just like, whatever, just tell me what to do.
Yeah. I think I've watched it in others and in myself. I think like one of the worst things for someone with ADHD is to feel checked out, because it's like, it's like unbearable. As soon as you hit that point where you're like, well, nothing's working, I am checking out. I am tuning out. And then and when I watch it happen, it's almost like a disassociative state that I see like some of my loved ones go into. And I'm like, oh, whatever's happening in front of you right now is not working. And because maybe you don't know how to get out of it or don't know what to do with this, you're like checking out, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's a hard place to be. Yeah.
It really, it's a horrible, you don't deserve to be there. Nobody deserves to be there, because that's not who you are. You're not checked out. You're all there. And there's so much of you, and you're freaking awesome. It's your whole life, because ADHD affects your brain. And your brain affects everything, like we are our brain technically. It's like everything. So yeah, if you suspect you might have ADHD, please figure it out, whether you do or whether you don't. And if you do, yay, because now you know where that hole in the wall is, and you get to patch it up, and we get to start managing it tiny step by tiny step.
Yeah. And in terms of the management, I also want to talk a bit about that, because it's great if people decide to go the medication route. I know amongst my group of friends, we've been talking a lot about this lately, and some of them have tried medication and really didn't like it. And so, or they just don't want to be on it. So for anyone who doesn't want to pursue the medication route, what are some of the most important changes or systems they can implement to alleviate some of the difficult symptoms?
In my opinion, medication, the right medication can be super helpful. At the right prescription, at the right dose. I find a lot of medical professionals prescribe like way too high of a dose. So it's what creates that zombie feeling that everyone complains about.
It's very unpleasant.
Yeah. If you've been prescribed 30 milligrams of something and you feel like a zombie, ask your doctor to give you 10, and let's see what 10 does instead of 30 or whatever, because what the medication does. So here's how you can think about it in terms of if you don't want to take medication. What the medication does is it kind of puts blinders on you. All right. So hence the zombie, right? It's just like, whoosh. And then it keeps you like this. And so it does help you focus. Yeah. It does not help you focus on the right things. Right. So, you could be amazing at focusing on your social media feed for 8 straight hours and get absolutely nothing done. Right. Yeah. But you were focused. But if you do know what you should be focused on, then it could be helpful. And if it's, at the right dosage, but if you think of it like that, that's what the medication does. It helps you focus. It helps you basically create almost like a tunnel vision. So how do you create a tunnel vision in your life without medication? Again, it's the one focus at a time. Yeah. That's exactly what that is. Because when I was telling you that was the name of my company way back in the day when I first started it, I was very anti-medication. And I want to tell you that I'm not anymore, because I've seen way too many success stories. So I'm not, but I used to be. I used to be like back in my total vegan, and no medication ever, not even Tylenol. And so I had to figure this out on my own. Mm-hmm. And the way I did it without medication was honestly just focusing on the most minuscule tasks, one focus at a time. And I would literally write it out as a recipe. I would keep no more than 3 tasks on my to-do list, even though I had a 300 item long to-do list. I would have another page that only had 3. And so, I would only focus on one at a time. in steps. You have to think of it as, how am I going to create a tunnel vision? Because that's what the medication does. It just like makes you focus. So I highly recommend one thing at a time. All of us have 50,000 things that we need to do in a day. Like, nobody who's listening or watching is any different in that way. We all have all of these categories. But the trick for the tunnel vision and to be able to focus is to only do one at a time, at a time. And then the next at a time. And then the next one at a time. And then you will get to everything when you do it that way.
That makes sense. Can you also tell me about mood-based scheduling?
Oh, I love mood-based scheduling. So it's really just like working with your natural circadian rhythm. For 2 days, track your high energy times of day and your low energy times of day, just so you know where they are. And there's usually not just one high energy time of day. We usually go through a bunch of different, ebbs and flows throughout the day. So maybe you're like oddly high energy at 8 a.m. and then again at 3 p.m. or maybe at 8 a.m. and again oddly at 9 p.m. or whatever it is. Just find those high energy times, find your low energy times, write them down, track it. It's not that difficult. And then when you're gonna, if you're able to schedule all of your things to do, try your best to schedule your most difficult, the tasks that you don't want to do. Put those tasks in your highest energy time of day.
Okay.
And put the easy tasks, the ones we gravitate towards that are no-brainers for us, at your lowest energy time of day. And the reason I have to spell it out is because a lot of people do the exact opposite. Where, like, if you're a morning person, let's just say, because a lot of us really are a morning person, but not all of us. But like,
I wish I was.
Yeah. So like, let's say, morning people, they tend to just be scrolling through their phones in the morning for like an hour a day and doing absolutely nothing. And that it's like prime real estate time, like they could, where they could actually get stuff done. But it's really just about being aware and being on purpose, where, this is your highest energy time. You're not a morning person. So maybe, like, when do you have a lot of energy during the day? Do you notice?
I'm definitely a night owl. So I find kind of between like 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then from like 7 till 10 p.m. I get like another big burst. Yeah.
Good. So that's exactly, so on your calendar, you would, whatever those things are, is there anything that you've been putting off that you haven't been able to do? Is there just like one thing maybe?
There's so many things I want to throw up. Yeah.
Okay, good. So not good, but whatever, like, just what's one that you don't mind saying out loud?
I mean, my mortgage renewal is up at the end of the month and I have been putting off figuring it out. Well, a mortgage renewal is on paper and you don't need to be with anybody in person, right? Exactly.
But I just, calls,
I'm like, it's really not that hard. And to your point, it's not that big of a lift. And I just every week paste it to my new to-do list and paste it again and again. And I keep not doing it. And I'm like, I've got to do this.
Well, what's going to happen if you don't do it, Jillian?
Oh, well, I'm going to wait till the last minute and then I'm going to pull like an all-nighter and get it done before the deadline. Because that's what I usually do. Yeah.
Okay. And then how's that going to, is that, if that's okay for you, then great.
I've made it work, but it would be great to probably like get ahead of some of these things and not then like compromise my sleep and like just be in a kind of chaotic place the day before the deadline. So it's something I would like to get done in advance and not in like the final hour. Okay. So
can I just play with you for like 1 sec?
Sure.
Okay, good. Do you have your computer?
I'm feeling very exposed.
Listen, you asked me to be here.
I know. So, no, I appreciate you.
If there's like is there something on your computer that you can like, is there like a tab or the mortgage renewal forms? Have you got them anywhere? Or do you need to find them?
No, I've opened them up and I've looked at them.
Are they on your computer right now?
They're in my email. Yeah, if I open I can access them from my email.
Well, no, access them from your email now.
Oh, you want me to do it right now? Stop.
Yeah, this is called on-the-spot implementation.
Oh my God, no.
I just want you to open the document. That's it. I'm not going to ask you to fill out any paperwork right now on this podcast. Okay. But I do want you to go to the email, because that's something where if something's in your email and you need to find it eventually, you just won't. and it's just going to stay in your email. So can you just open the email with me on this podcast right now?
Okay. I'm going to do it on my phone.
Okay.
So that I don't fuck with our connection, but okay.
Yeah.
Let's
okay.
open it. Everyone listening is like, why does this girl have a podcast on adulting?
I think you're on it. Honestly, like exactly like 99% of all adults.
I think so too.
This is not unusual.
I think so too. Okay. All right. I have it open.
You have it open?
I have
it open. Okay, look at it.
Okay.
How does that feel for you? Like, does it look okay? Is this like, it's just like terrifying for you, or is it just like a thing?
It's like, it's a bit anxiety inducing. Yeah. It feels a bit stressful. Yeah.
Okay. What's the stressful part about this?
I think like that there's a decision I have to make and I don't feel informed.
Good.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. That's good.
Yeah.
It's usually that.
Okay.
Everybody should hear that. Everyone should hear that. When we feel like, when we're afraid of something and we're not sure what it is, it's usually because of a decision that we have to make. And we don't even necessarily know that that's what it is. But it's like, do I do it this way or do I do it that way? Do I do it, what are the two options for mortgages in Canada?
Yeah, do I do fixed or do I do variable? Yeah. And do I do like 1 year or 3 year or 5 year? Like, I feel I just don't actually know because I feel like my life is changing and I don't, now I feel like rushed into an answer.
If you did fixed, how would you feel about yourself?
I think it's probably all fine. I think it's all fine.
If you did variable, how would you feel about yourself?
I feel fine. If the markets like drastically went up, which I don't think they will right now, but they did a few years ago, and I think a lot of my friends with variable mortgages were like, "Oh shit," but that's not a reflection on them. It's they did.
So listen to what you're saying. It's like this and that. I think you want to do fixed. Just saying. Yeah. maybe for right now.
I'm pretty risk adverse with this kind of thing. Anyways, yeah.
Okay, but I mean, just as an example, so what actually ended up happening here, whatever you end up deciding to do, and you should totally email me and let me know what you do. But like, you should, just like you had this decision, you had this thing you've been putting off forever.
Yeah.
Well, how long have you been putting this off?
Oh, I got the first email probably in like early August.
Oh my God. Okay, I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Really?
It's been about 3 months. Yeah. Okay. But now you've looked at it, right? And we talked about whatever, is anxiety producing for you.
Yeah.
Right? So there's one more thing.
Were you expecting it to be better or worse?
I was expecting you to say I've had this like for about 3 weeks, but it was like 3 months.
That's that's
funny. Fine. It's fine. It doesn't even matter because it's not due yet, right? But what you're going to do, but just for kicks.
Yeah.
Because I want you to prove to yourself that small steps are doable, even for you, and especially for you, so that all of your listeners, in the future will know that it's possible for them also.
Okay.
At your high energy time of day, which I think you said is between 7 and 11.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible for you today to take a stab at this mortgage renewal and just to start filling it out today?
I think so. I'm pretty accountability driven in terms of like my commitments to others. So if I am making this commitment to you, I'm more likely than if it's just me. Okay,
good. Because you also just made that you can make the commitment to all of your listeners.
Okay, doing it for you. No,
So that's really it, right? So I had you open it, like, so when you're talking about, mood and like when to do things and the best time of day to do things, this is something you've been putting off for 3 months. Let's find the time of day that you're not going to be dragging your butt, right? So that would be tonight. And your second wind, you're going to set an alarm. Do it right now while we're on this podcast at 7:00. And you're going to keep pressing like repeat or snooze or whatever if you don't do it at 7:15. But you do it today and you just get started on it. Because once you get started on the things that you've been procrastinating on, the momentum takes over.
That's true. Yeah.
Starting is everything. So if you were my client, we would be doing this together right now.
Right. Right.
Like you'd be opening the form and we would be doing it together. And then after the session, we would be, you'd continue doing it. But you're going to do this on your own now because you've set the alarm and you're doing it at a time of day that works for you.
Yeah.
But that's why it's really good for us to go with our mood. Because if I told you to do this first thing tomorrow morning, you wouldn't.
Never. If you're like, wake up at 8 a.m., I'm like, I'd rather throw up. But no.
Right. So that's just like making it winnable. Like you have to just make this winnable. And I just want you to start on it. I'm not telling you to do the whole thing. So even if I just said spend 5 minutes on it at some point today, before 8 p.m. or before 9 p.m., spend 5 minutes on it. That's doable for you.
Is this how you would coach people with I was reading in your book, you have like the action first behavior way of coaching. So instead of trying to convince me to think or believe it's not that bad,
that's such bullshit. No.
It's just like taking the action. And then can you walk people through why the action first approach matters instead of this thought first?
It's really simple because our thoughts are all encompassing nonstop, and we are constantly second guessing our own thoughts because that's what's stimulating for us. So a person with ADHD, like that whole concept of, change your beliefs and change your thoughts, and it'll eventually change your actions and your results. It doesn't work nearly as easily or as well as just doing something, because when you do something, you don't have to think about it.
Right.
And so again, it's getting out of your head.
Yeah.
And getting into an action. And that is, and I promise anybody who's anyone can try to prove me wrong, and they can't. I've been doing this for way too long and with way too many people. If you do it this way, you will get your stuff done. You just will. Stop thinking about the overthinking, because that's our trap.
Right.
That's our trap. And it's like a brilliant form of stimulus for ADHDers. One teeny tiny little action at a time without overthinking. Eventually, guess what? That tiny, you opened your mortgage renewal thing. You actually spent 5 minutes on it. Tomorrow you're going to do the same thing. It's going to get done in a couple of days versus 3 months of sitting there.
Thinking about it and not doing it.
How do you think your thoughts are going to change slightly as a result of you doing that?
Yeah, by taking the action, I'll be like, that really wasn't that bad. And you actually see you're able to do these things, and they're not these crazy mountains to climb necessarily, or that even if it was hard, that you're capable of doing it. And rather than trying to talk myself into it, which my brain, we
don't like to be talked into things. So that's really it. It's so basic. It's so basic. There's nothing out of touch here. Everyone understands how this works because you can understand how it would work in your life. Keep it simple, tiny little steps, be in action, and your thoughts and your belief and your results are going to start to change. You're going to have all of these things done. You're going to be feeling a heck of a lot better about yourself. You're going to be showing up on time. People are going to notice. It just follows exactly like that.
Okay, we're doing it. Baby steps, inch by inch.
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. I really appreciate, as uncomfortable as it was in moments, that you went that you dove into it with me, because it is really helpful. I think we hear about things in theory, but when you actually get to experience them in practice, it really resonates and hits. So I appreciate you giving the time and attention to do this. This was really fun.
Oh, good. Yay. I had fun too. I loved it.
Thank you so much, Shanna. Please tell everybody where they can get your book, where they can find you online, where they can get your coaching services, all of it.
Just go to ADHDcoaching.com. And that's where I am. The book is there. And the book is available anywhere books are sold. And I am on ADHDcoaching.com.